Switch it up today. Wait, I didn't introduce myself. Hi, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Alana, and on this channel, we predominantly do long format single book reviews. However, as you can tell by the title, we're not doing a book review today. I'm switching it up. Um, I'm going to answer a question that I get asked periodically, maybe at least a few times a year for the past few years. And I've done Instagram posts on it that have done well. So why not transfer that over to the YouTubes? That's how to read more. And I think the reason why I get this question, and I'm not the only person who gets hitting my mic. I'm not the only person who gets this question who posts book content on whatever platform they choose to post it on. I think the reason why most people tend to ask this question is because they're trying to figure out how to read more books annually. They want, because you go online and you see these people who are able to, for some reason, I don't know how, I can't do this in my life, read 100+ books a year. I can't even read 70 books a year, right? So, disclaimer, that's not normal. Even the amount of books that I'm able to read a year is not normal. Now, that does fluctuate. Last year, it was like 50 something, maybe 52. This year, I might be able to get to 60, but if I don't care. I'm currently, as of recording this video, at 44. That is not normal. Okay? When you read books for fun, but you're also creating content out of it, you are, in full transparency, reading and then using it for content. So there's an added incentive. I like the added incentive. It doesn't make it feel like work to me, and I don't feel like it puts pressure on my reading, but that's just me. I can compartmentalize the two. So I get this question, how do I manage to read so much? And of course, the term or the phrase "so much" is relative. I think people are focusing too much on the quantity and not necessarily the quality. And they're not thinking about what's realistic for them in their lifestyle. They're just kind of focusing on what other people are doing and try to keep up with the Joneses. So you really have to figure out what works for you. And then I think organically what you're able to read is going to naturally increase without you even trying, because you're establishing a rhythm, and then you just see this organic growth. But there are ways that I manage to overall read every day. So I'm able to, plow through 1,000-page novel, sometimes in 4 to 6 weeks. I plowed through Q-Teen84 by Haruki Murakami in less than 30 days. I think by my count, it might have been 27 days. That's just for me. The book was compulsively readable. But again, that's not normal. But I have a daily routine that I'm usually able to stick to. I'm going to make a disclaimer about how I'm thinking about changing my reading for the remainder of the foreseeable future, but don't worry, it will not stop book content. But let's hop into this. This was an impromptu video that I decided to do. I was going to record 4 book reviews. I decided to do this video and to just record 3 for the next batch of videos that I'm recording. So let me stop rambling. Put the phone away. And this is something that I still struggle with. But your phone and social media, I think, are the biggest distractions when it comes to reading. Because in order to read, and even if you have a short amount of time in which you're able to sit down and read, even if it's 10-15 minutes, you'll be surprised at what you can get through in 10 to 15 minutes on a book rather than looking at your phone. Put the phone out of reach, put it on quiet mode, do not disturb, put it in a different room if you have to. I guarantee you're not missing out on anything. And if somebody's having an emergency, they can call 911. Just saying. If someone's having a true emergency, they won't be calling you. They'll be calling the authorities. They'll be calling the police, the fire department. They're not calling you. But the social media, your phone is the biggest one. Now, do I always follow this rule? No, I don't. I go through periods of time where I'm really good at it, In other periods of time, really, really bad at it. Typically, in those periods of time where I'm bad at it, it's because maybe something else is going on in life and I'm a little bit more stressed out or tense and I have things on my brain. And so I'd rather watch funny dog reels on the internet than read a book. But the phone, put it away. If you really want to read, put it away. You have to determine the best time of reading. You have to determine the best time of day for reading for you. I actually get most of my reading done currently during meal times, not breakfast. I don't have time to read during breakfast, especially Monday through Friday. Mainly lunch and dinner. When I eat, instead of scrolling on my phone, I'll read. Now, again, refer to point one. You have to put the phone out of reach for this to really work. But when I'm eating, it's one of those times throughout my day, especially the work week, when I can get quiet, close my office door if I'm in the office that day, and just read quietly for however long my lunch break is. So I've had this question when I tell people that I like to read when I'm eating. They're like, well, how do you read hands-free, right? Because if you're eating, get a book weight. So I have a book weight. You can find them on Amazon. You can find them on Etsy, eBay, wherever. Just get a book weight that holds the book flat so that you can read hands-free and you don't have to kind of juggle so much whatever utensil or piece of food you're eating with trying to hold a book still. Also, weekend mornings, if I don't have anything to do, or even if I do have something planned, before I leave the house in the morning, Saturday, Sunday, I will make sure to sit down with a nice cup of coffee. Wow, my New England came out. Nice cup of coffee, tea, and make sure I get some time to read, even if it's 15 minutes. But you have to figure out what that time of day is for you. It may be before bed. You may like to get up early in the morning when it's quiet, especially if you have children, and get a little bit of time in to read. So you have to figure out how that works for you, and you're going to have to experiment with it a little bit. I also say to start small. Most people say they don't have time to read, and I get it. We are all busy, especially if you work full-time or you're a full-time parent, which is a job, by the way. Can we not say that parenting is not full-time? It's 24/7, 365, all right? Parenting is a job, and I don't mean that in a bad way. But we do have these pockets of time, even if it's not every single day, we do have pockets of time where you're like, you know what, maybe I'm going to use this 10 minutes to read versus, again, scrolling on the phone or watching television. Once you figure out where those pockets of time exist in your routine, don't focus on, all right, I'm going to knock out 30 pages in one sitting. Most people's attention spans we don't work that way. Start with 10 pages a day, 20 pages a day, 10 minutes a day, whatever works for how your brain likes to compartmentalize or, organize time or tasks. Once you start, you'll realize that you have these pockets of time that you can take advantage of. And then once you start with 10 minutes a day, then you're more likely to be like, I can add 5 more pages to this, or I can add 5 more minutes to this. And then again, you're starting to establish a routine. Always bring a book with you. I bring a book with me almost everywhere if I can. I always bring a book to work. If you have appointments, so you're going to the doctor's office, the dentist, or whatever, I always bring a book. And sometimes I'm not able to open it, but when I feel like it's accessible, I'm more likely to grab it. English. Enthusiasm is contagious, is something that I think works when it comes to wanting to motivate yourself to read more. When you see other people, maybe it's FOMO, maybe this is the type of FOMO. When you see other people reading and being enthusiastic and having fun with what they're reading, you kind of like, I want to hop on that bandwagon. So I was actually in a reading slump from 2015 to the end of 2019. Was it 2015? I would say 2015 to 2019. I was maybe reading a book a year. I had other things going on, stress. Yeah, and so my focus was just not good. So, but I remember towards the end of 2018, my sister was reading Jane Eyre for the first time. She read Jane Eyre for the first time, and she read Cold Mountain by Charles Fraser for the first time. And to watch her experience those books for the first time, because they are both fantastic. They're both two of my favorite books ever. I was like, man, I want to get back into that, feeling that excitement about reading that I hadn't felt in a long time because I had other things going on. So getting on YouTube, watching people talk about books that they're enthusiastic about, Bookstagram, Book Talk. I'm not on TikTok. TikTok is a cesspool, but watch people who have engaging content about what it is that they're reading. But also, please refer to the first post or the first point. Don't watch them too much because then that's taking time away from your reading because you need to put the phone away. I say read the difficult books. This is referring to reading speed. I have seen some people occasionally ask, how do I read faster? Like, how do I read more words per minute so I can plow through books faster? I will say, I wouldn't say I'm a fast reader. I have become a faster reader for sure, but it depends on the book. But when you take time to focus on reading books that are challenging technically, books like Proust, Virginia Woolf, authors like Proust, Virginia Woolf, the Russian authors, I think Dostoevsky is a good one, the brothers Karamazov in particular, you'll notice that when you read more difficult content, it may slow you down for that particular time that you're reading that book, but then you notice that after you're done, other books seem a lot easier. And so that's how I noticed that my reading pace increased. So when I read the brothers Karamazov, Proust, Wolf, and then I would read other books, I was flying through them because they helped me to read faster. I've used this analogy before, but on Instagram. I might have put it in the video. It's almost like when you first start working out or whatever, when you first start incorporating more physical activity into your routine. You're slow at first, you're clumsy, it takes a little bit of time to learn it, and then the more that you work out, the stronger you get, the more you're able to do, and sometimes the faster you're able to accomplish certain things. So your brain is a muscle, metaphorically speaking, and so the more that you read difficult books, the better that you're going to get at reading in general, because you're going to be able to pick up themes faster, you're going to see techniques, you're going to get styles faster, and so it just goes from there. So sometimes you have to slow yourself down to get faster. Though disclaimer, I am not a fan of speed reading. I don't think that when you're reading novels, part of the reason why I read novels is to enjoy the language, to slow it down and enjoy the prose. I'm not reading a nonfiction book to study, to grab the key points so I can pass an exam. This is not schoolwork. So I think speed reading is a scam when it comes to novels, because part of it is to enjoy the prose, right? So I remember I got emailed by somebody trying to have me promote their speed reading program. I didn't even answer. I was like, this is absolute nonsense. No, enjoy the language. Also, the book will dictate the pace, and let the book dictate the pace in which let the book dictate the pace in which to read it. You're going to get more out of it, right? And sometimes that will actually help you move through certain books faster. Audiobooks. Some people would argue that audiobooks aren't necessarily reading, but I don't rely on audiobooks a lot. I do prefer nonfiction to read nonfiction through an audiobook if there's an audiobook available, because I process it a lot better, I feel like. But I typically will still have a hard copy to follow along with and annotate. I also feel like nonfiction is easier for me to process because if I'm listening to it, I can do other things like folding the laundry, doing other chores, cleaning the kitchen, washing dishes, etc. Whereas when I'm reading fiction, again with beautiful language and symbolism, I want to see it on the page and I'm processing it a lot better. So I rarely rely on audiobooks. I do use them occasionally, but typically it's nonfiction. But for some people, audiobooks are their main form of reading because their lives are that hectic. And I feel like whatever you can do to get literature in your life, if that works for you, that works for you. I have multiple books on rotation, typically 3 to 4 at a time. And I understand that this is not for everybody. but it's how I'm able to read more and get more reading done annually. So I find that for me, having multiple narratives going that I can dip in and out of keeps me from getting stuck. Have you ever had a book and for some reason it's going slower than you thought it would? And so then you feel like you're going to go into a slump because maybe it's not gelling quite yet with you. Put that book aside and pick up something else. I have a main read that I read for like the first part of the day. I typically read them, let's say if it's a weekend, during breakfast and during lunch. But then around dinner time, I'll read something else. I'll switch it up at night. I also have a book that I like to keep on my bedside table that I like to read either early in the morning when I wake up or before I go to bed, that they're not mentally taxing. They don't really require huge analysis or whatever. So those are the type of books that I like to read or keep on my nightstand and incorporate different types of narratives throughout my day. Sometimes there may be a book that I'm just not feeling at that moment, but I'm in the mood to read. I'm just not in the mood to read that particular book. I'll just pick up something else. And that way I'm getting this daily reading in because I have options. Now, those are my tips. Another thing I would say is don't force it. Because if you try to force the reading, it's going to feel like a chore. Read when you're in the mood to read. If you sit down to read and you're not there, you just can't put the book away and go do something else because it's going to feel like a chore. And so I find sometimes I'll sit down at my normal reading time, whether that be, it's my lunch break and I have a book out, but I'm not focused. I'm not going to try to read it. I'll just put it away because then it almost leaves a bad taste in your mouth. You know what I mean? So don't force it. Embrace the slump. If you're going through a reading slump, embrace the slump. When I was in a reading slump from 2015 to 2018, I just picked up another hobby. That's actually when I taught myself how to knit. I just couldn't focus on reading, so I did something else. So those are my general tips. Now, like I said at the beginning of this video, how am I changing my reading? I can plow through books, okay? I always have more books. I always have what am I trying to say? I always have a backlog of books to I always have a backlog of books to review. I can't keep up, which is a good problem to have. So I always have content ready. Because it does take me quite a bit of time to then go through the book that I finished reading, outline it, write the review, edit the review, record it, post it on Instagram, whatever. That takes time. So I'm reading books faster than I can review them. However, over the past couple of weeks, I felt this urge to slow my reading down. Don't get me wrong. I'm always going to have like 2 to 4 books on rotation, 3 to 4 books on rotation. But if I don't feel like reading 20 to 30 pages that day, I'm not going to do it. My brain has been on other things. Disclaimer, I'm not in a reading slump. So right now, for example, I'm reading, this is why I brought this here, Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. I'm recording this at the halfway point of September. I started reading this book on September 4th. I am not even 200 pages through. That is really slow for me to be halfway through the month and to not be halfway through a book. Even if this book is even a 1,000 page book like this, I can typically plow through, again, these massive books. But I haven't felt like it. I don't know why. I'm just like, you know what? I kind of want to savor it. I want to go slowly. I just want to take my time and slow my reading down for the remainder of the year. So if I don't get through the rest of my TBR the way that I wanted to, so be it. I just want to savor it. I don't know. Maybe it's because I have other things on my mind. Maybe it's because the past 4 weeks at work in particular have been really, really busy. There are some other things on my mind, and I'm just like, you know what? I think it's worth being spontaneous in that moment because life, you don't want to miss opportunities. And so let me take this opportunity to be spontaneous rather than being so strict with my reading that I'm missing out on things that are important. You see what I mean? Reading is a hobby for me, and I enjoy making content. I enjoy reviewing and analyzing books in this way. I just really enjoy it. It doesn't feel like work for me. It doesn't feel like it never feels like a chore. But at the same time, life is going to life, and if I need to slow down my reading because there are other things happening, then that's what I'm going to do. And I feel like if I just slow it down and just get what I can reasonably get down, if I can slow my reading down daily, but still read daily, just maybe a little bit less, that'll prevent me from going into a slump, right? Why would I put pressure on something that we're in an area of my life where it doesn't need pressure? See what I mean? Because maybe I'm no longer in a season of life where I'm able to read 100 pages in a weekend of one book. So tie that into, and keep in mind. So what am I trying to say? Because typically I could knock out 100 pages of this a Saturday and a Sunday. That's with everything else that I have going on in life, right? And then add that to whatever book I'm reading over my dinner. That's like another 30 plus pages, right? I could knock out sometimes 200 plus pages of reading in a weekend. And that's just due to being scheduled. I am not a person that just sits for hours at a time and reads. I have just become a faster reader. But I've noticed my reading has slowed down, so I might as well just embrace it. And instead of getting stressed out about it, which is ridiculous to even say, I'm just going to slow it and enjoy the ride. And then eventually maybe my reading will pick back up again. So I have a feeling that my TBR for the remainder of the year is going to be changing. Still going to be reading, but changing. And that's okay. Because it is what it is. I'm not going to stop life to stay home and read. That's crazy. So I hope that made sense. That was a ramble. I'm going to stop talking. I feel like I'm all over the place. But that is how I incorporate reading into a daily routine. I hope some of these tips were helpful. I don't really feel like these tips were revolutionary, but I do get asked this question a lot. And I figured I'd do a video about it because this is something that has been on my mind lately. And again, comparison is the thief of joy. We have to stop looking at what other people are able to get done and think that we're somehow failing. No, read what you want to read, how you want to read it. If reading 10 books a year is a huge accomplishment for you, good for you. That doesn't detract from you reading 10 books a year versus somebody who's able to read 100. Quality over quantity. If that was valuable to you, forget what they're doing. Comparison is the thief of joy. That is where I'm going to leave it. Please let me know if this video made sense to you. I feel like this was a bit of a ramble. And if you felt like it was helpful, I don't know. But don't worry, just because I'm slowing my reading down doesn't mean that I'm going to stop content. Oh no, I have plenty of book content and book reviews on the way for the foreseeable future. Can't speak English. For the foreseeable future, because I just have a lot of fun doing this. So anyway, please forget I'm all over the place. Please don't forget. Let's start over. Please feel free to like, subscribe, leave me a comment. If you would also like to, please feel free to follow me on Instagram, where I get up to more book shenanigans. And I also post funny memes and reels and Instagram stories because there's enough negativity online, enough drama online with the state of the world. We should all have a good laugh, right? Okay. With that, I'm going to sign out. This was a bit of a mess, wasn't it?